Just while you're waiting until we actually properly start, there are speak week cards on your chairs. If you wanted to pour your heart out, literally, and say whatever you wanted to change if you're around the university, it would be great. And we're doing cool so far, but it would be cooler if we got your speak week card in. So, crack on.
What is it?
A speak week.
Yeah, what is it?
Yeah, should we have it? So Speak Week basically is a week that we organize to literally ask our students to, if they wanted to change anything, to write it down, and then we formulate it as a very comprehensive report, and we take it to the highest governing body of the university to lobby them on the things that the students want. So this is the reason why we create Speak Week. So it's literally a chance for your imagination to go wild. I don't know how you understand that, but anyway. So it was supposed to be a joke, but anyway. Okay, that's so bad. Anyway, so yeah, so just pour your heart out on whatever changes you wanted to make on the Speak Week card until we start. So, coming back.
Already done one of them because someone started on the second floor. So my thoughts are full.
Oh, you just did you do a time save? Have you done the time save?
Yes, I have. Like, they're asking me something. I didn't know what to do.
Like O'Brien was like, can I come to your house and interview your housemates?
No,
That's the real question.
you can have shots and then it's not who, then Pam.
Oh, he couldn't handle him.
Everyone. Everyone. Thank you, Anna. I'm slightly terrified as we've decided to record this, which is great for me. The reason we are recording this is so that we can help those, for those people who are unable to make it this evening. It's also so that if there's something that we potentially say too quickly, like I'm doing right now, so I'll slow it down, or if there's something you didn't quite catch, you can re-watch it. So you can have as many briefings as you want from me and the rest of the team. I would advise no more than 2 because I'm really annoying, okay? So, before we kind of kick off this evening, I want to talk to you a little bit about the next kind of couple of weeks. So, you're all running for election, yeah? Can we just check that? No one's here for the careers fair that was here at 4:30? Wonderful, brilliant. There are a few grumbles there, like, actually I am here for the careers fair. Over the next kind of 2 or 3 weeks, all of you will be experiencing excitement and joy, heartache and crushing defeat, some of you. That was terrible. Please edit this to have me not say that. But no, there'll be a lot of emotion attributed to the next kind of couple of weeks. And the one thing I want you all to remember is that everyone in this room is also going through that, okay? So I want you to have patience with each other, I want you to help each other, and think about the things that everyone else is going through, because it might be that someone does something that really irks you. And I want you to take a second and kind of think, oh, well actually they're undergoing the same pressures, the same anxieties and the same excitement I'm going through. You are basically a family for the next 4 weeks because you're all going to be experiencing the same thing. There's no one else across this campus that will be experiencing those types of emotions over those 4 weeks. So I suppose what I'm kind of asking you to do is be nice and be kind. And obviously be critical of policies, but be nice and kind to each other, to people. So that's the end of my little bit of a spiel. So I want to talk a little bit about colour coding, because yes, I am the person who's done this for you. Every pack in front of you will be colour coded. So if you are a campaign officer, or running for a campaign officer position, you'll be missing one form, and I'm going to explain that form in a moment. So in front of you, you should have a pack that looks like this. The front sheet should have your name. You would have a photo taken by the wonderful Taz. So you've got the info pack. Your first blue tab is your candidate information sheet. Okay? We need that by the end of today so we can make sure that we're ordering the right t-shirt size and colour for you. Okay? It's also there so that we can track if your name is different on our system than the one you use, so the preferred name that you want to use. So obviously the sheet that you have at the front of your pack, that is the name that we have listed for you on our system. So where it says full name, please write in that bit, because usually some people will just write their preferred name and we don't know what their actual name is. So we want to make those amendments for you. However, that is not a space for you to put like, Steve is amazing. That's not your name, okay? Also, my name is Steve, just to make that clear. I'm head of student voice here and I'm responsible for supporting you throughout this process. Throughout this process, I will call myself Good Steve, and we'll explain that in a little bit. So this form, really important for us to make sure that we have all the correct information. There is one campaign officer missing. I apologise for that, and that is Black and Ethnic Minorities officer is missing from that checklist. So if you're running for that position, please just put that within there. Your next tab is your pink tab. So for campaign officers, you can zone out for 5 minutes, you can chill, you can have a great time. For those running to be sabbatical trustees, this is the trustee declaration form. So sabbatical officers are directors of the charity, trustees of the charity, as well as student representatives. It's a whole kind of complex role. It's very exciting, particularly for Cardiff University students. You need to read through this and make sure that you are not exempt from running as an officer. So for example, if you filed for bankruptcy, we need to know about that because that will stop you from being a trustee of our organisation. The next tab is a yellow tab, so everyone will have this. This is a fun form that I will send to you thousands of times. It is the finance form. So all the money that you spend throughout the weeks of campaigning, you get that back. Running the elections is free. You get all of that money back. However, I need your receipts. Just like Taylor Swift, I need your receipts, okay? I need you to make sure that you're taking every piece of expenditure down, putting it on this form, and then I'll make sure you get it back. So, your next tab is green. The green tab is the feedback that we'll ask you to complete at the end of the 2 weeks. Last year, a few people were kind of a bit alarmed by the amount of feedback we were asking from them. They were also wanting to make sure that when they were signing their final form on the final day, they knew what they were signing. So we've added it to this candidate briefing. So, feedback form is green tab, and the next tab, which will be the lighter pink, I suppose, is your candidate declaration. So this you'll sign on the final day of voting at 5:10 p.m. on that Friday to tell us you're happy for the election camp to go ahead. Okay? So forewarning now, these forms exist, and we're letting you know about them so that you can be ready for the final Friday of voting. If you have any questions about the pack or information, then please do let me know. There are other two kind of loose pieces of paper. So one is the election regulations. So we'll be referencing that throughout. And then the other is a notice to all candidates. So the first slide is about campaigning. The other side is about events that are taking place tomorrow. These are university roundtables. They are members of university staff who are giving up their time to talk to you about what you want to achieve, what you are thinking about. They'll also talk to you about what projects they're running. It might be you have something amazing to put in your manifesto, but actually the university is already undertaking that work. So it's something for you to say that you would develop in partnership with the university rather than invent, if that makes sense. It might be that you say, we should have a giant building outside of the Students' Union. Sorry to break it to you, there's already a giant building being built outside of the Students' Union. So different things like that you might need to consider. So that's why that meeting is open for you to have a discussion with university staff members and potentially with Biscuits. I haven't figured that out yet, but hopefully Biscuits. So those are your wonderful forms. So I'm going to introduce you now to our wonderful Student Union President, Fatia Al-Dalhawi.
Pronouncing it that's fine. Okay, so first of all, I wanted to mention it's a moment of celebrating the fact that, are we ready to hear this? We have broke the record of the number of candidates standing in the spring elections in any year before. And this is why you are the reason to actually make that happen. And we have 77 of you guys are running for all different positions. So this is the highest ever it's been in any year. So well done to actually taking the first step to create that change in the community that we are in, which is Cardiff University, which I call it a small government in a small city of 33,000 students, basically. So I just wanted to mention that it's really weird for me not to sit this end of it and actually stand here. It feels really weird because I've done this twice. and every single experience of me running a campaign was completely different. And I just wanted to mention, if you are running for the first time and you think that you don't know anything about the student union or people don't know you and all that, be confident. Nobody knew me. And everyone thought that I was a weak candidate. You know, whoa, who's Fadila? Who's that? You know what I mean? Nobody cared. I'm an international student. I'm Muslim hijab and all that things. So don't really care the fact that if you are not known, because it's not about popularity context. It's about your authenticity, and it's about your ideas, and it's about how you can make change to make this place a better place. Yeah? So always be confident regarding your ideas, who you are, and actually when you are running. Secondly, if you are running second time, God be with you. So all of us with that is gonna be like, you're gonna guys be sweating one another so much, the way that one did. But anyway, so all the best with that. But yeah, so in the campaigns week, basically, I wanted to mention top tips. Make sure you eat, make sure you sleep, make sure you do things strategically of what actually gonna have the most impact on every single action you're going to do. Don't do everything and anything. That is not the way forward. Be picky the way that you actually utilize your time. And also, food is really important. Always have someone there to give you the emotional support. Like my fiance was with me, making sure I'm eating and having coffee. I was like literally my blood turning into cappuccino, but you don't have to go through that. Make sure you don't really have so much coffee. And water, dehydrated, not dehydrated, you have to be hydrated rather. And yeah, speak to every single human being that you're going to be seeing, which is really great to have that one-to-one chat. And what else I'd mention about campaigning? I felt when I was running for Vice President Education, at the end when it clicked 5 p.m., I felt that I was winner already because of the experience that you gain, the skills that you gain, and also how you're going to be outside of your shell and being there with the humans, basically. And I felt winner at all, like winner all the way through it. So I didn't need to listen to the results because winning is a bonus for me. So focus on living the experience and enjoying it. This is the way forward. And actually make the most out of it. The friends that you're going to create from the different candidates is going to be lifetime friends. Like the one who actually helped me in campaign week, she came all the way from North Wales today and saying that, Fadila, I love you. And I said, like, I love you too. And I met her in the campaign week and she's now friend for life. So create those friendships and actually be in solidarity with one another and actually help one another. If you feel one candidate is feeling really low and can't really make it happen anymore, just go and be with them and say that we can do this, let's carry on and so on. Yeah? And play it very honorably, is the word? Yeah. And in a sense of focusing yourself, be very, very, very focused on what you can do throughout the week and don't let anyone defocus you, if that is a word existing. But okay, these are a few words. Just all the best. You made the first step happen by actually nominating yourself to create the change. So carry on till the last day, 5 p.m. Friday, and until the results day. Oh, I'm shaking already. Anyway, all the best.
Okay, hi guys, my name's Steve Wilford. I'm the Director of Engagement and Participation at the Student Union. It is my role and Steve's role and some of the Student Voice team to facilitate the election, and look after you guys and make sure that the election process is as smooth as it can be. A few things I wanted to say were, first of all, it's really great for me to see lots of familiar faces in the room, but also lots of new faces as well. This is a really, really great opportunity for people who've been very close to the union, as well as people who maybe have been involved with things, but perhaps not quite at the forefront. And we get a really good mix of individuals involved in elections. And it's impossible for us to draw a pattern between somebody's involvement and whether they're successful in the election. So don't be afraid if you think you perhaps haven't got the experience or you've done the amount of stuff with the union as some of the people around you may have done. That's not always in the election. As Fadila said, it's about the authenticity and about the connection you make with people who you're encouraging to vote for you. From a numbers perspective, and Fadila said, there are more candidates this year than we've had before. That is a good thing for students to have more choice. It isn't something we encourage you to be fearful of. You've got as good a chance of winning against one person as you have against 10 people. It's about the connections, as I say, that you make with people that's going to win your election, not necessarily how big your friendship group is or how many friends you've got on Facebook or so. There are 77 candidates, but there are 17 positions, and perhaps one of the important things for us to reflect on, encourage you to reflect on, is there are more people here than there are positions available, and there will be more people who end up at the end of the week having not been successful in the election than are successful in the election. So please, please, please remember that as you go through. Plan and prepare to be successful, but also have your next option, your plan B. Don't pin everything on being successful in the election. Make sure you complete your degree, make sure you put the work into your academic studies you need to. If you're looking at graduate roles as well, make sure you're keeping those burning. Don't put all your eggs in the basket before winning the election. As I say, there are more people who are unfortunately unsuccessful in the election than there are successful. It's okay to be nervous, it's okay to perhaps feel this is a bit of an unknown journey you're starting on. And again, as Vanina has said and Steve has said, other people in the room around you will be feeling the same thing. So take some solace in that. Talk openly with the people you're running with and against, and genuinely what Vanina has said about making friends. There are lots of people in the room here who will make very, very good friends and friends for life coming out of this process. So be open and be honest, and be humble in how you approach the role, and other people will see that and reflect on that as well. They will also help, if you are the popular candidate with other candidates, they will also be singing your praises when they're out campaigning themselves, so it works in your favour too. I'll hand back now to Steve, they will talk you through what we're going to do next.
Cool. So, just to provide some context, some people in this room will know everything about the Students' Union and what it does, some people will know nothing. So please bear with us and just kind of listen, nod, show me that you're paying attention. I know it's a really rainy Tuesday, please bear with us. So, Sabbatical Officer roles, they are fun. You get to do loads of great stuff. You get to hand out thousands of cups of tea, you get to do loads of inflatables, you do photo shoots, you do all kind of wild and cool stuff. You also are responsible for organisational governance and finances. Not as fun as these things that we've just mentioned. There will be a lot of reading involved as well in terms of being an officer. It's kind of what a job is. There's not usually jobs that you can find where you don't have to kind of read and engage with things. Governance in terms of our decision making, so how we make decisions in terms of our staffing structure, in terms of our finances, really remembering that camera is there, sorry, it's really spinning me out. In terms of our building and how it operates, and also in terms of how the charity interacts with the charitable company. And as I say, finances, who doesn't love finances? Funnest of all things. These things are linked into your role as officers. We just want to make that very clear that these are fun and great things, but there is another side to it that is really serious and has impacts upon our organisation. I want to talk a little bit about public perception. So this is actually about someone in the room, so I'm sorry, that individual. But basically last year someone was posting about another candidate, and they referred to basically saying, one of us would do a better job than the female rowing president. Now, this person was trying to get a point across in terms of the fact that they would be better than the rowing president, because this person didn't realise that the rowing team didn't have male and female teams, they just have rowing. So this person was, because of their own experiences, they thought there was male and female rowing teams, and therefore was trying to make a reference to the female rowing president. However, it's sexist, because they're referring to that individual by their gender. Think about how you're engaging with people and how you are talking about policies. Don't link it to someone's gender or ethnicity or anything like that. I'm better than other candidates. That's all you need to say. You don't need to reference anything else in terms of who a person is. But obviously, as we talk about public perception, one person is trying to get a point across, but it's coming across as another kind of way. Does anyone know who Toby Young is at all? Wonderful. So Toby Young was appointed to the Office for Students. When he was appointed to his position, loads of people started looking back at his social media. They went through his tweets, they found some horrible things that he had written in the past, and things that he may or may not believe right now and at the present, but he still tweeted them, he still put them out there into the social kind of world. So what I'm telling you now is scrub your social media if you've said anything really inappropriate, because A, the university will also be interested in those kinds of things, and B, people will find it. And C, just think about what you're saying and how you're saying it. Take a few moments before you post to kind of think about what you are wanting to relay and how someone could potentially misinterpret it. So, campaign officers, they are they're part of a 17-strong team. They represent students on particular issues, and the big thing is in the title, campaigning. All of them are there to remove barriers, promote interests, and make sure that things can be a little bit brighter for every member of those particular caucuses or demographics. We kind of keep in contact with them on a regular basis. We'll send them quite a lot of emails and keep in contact with them via social media. So that's just a little bit of a description about campaign officers. So I'm now going to pass back to Steve, like a baton, and I'm going to talk about who runs the Students' Union.
You didn't explain
Sorry?
the difference between Steves.
We will get to, okay, we'll talk about good Steve and bad Steve, because Padilla would like me to. So I'm good Steve. Good Steve is here to support you. I will run focus groups, I will run sessions, I will email you. Anytime you need help, I provide bottled water and pizza and loads of different fun, cool things that I'm really loving. And then you have bad Steve. Bad Steve is the person you hear from when you break a rule. Bad Steve is the person you hear from when you've done something a little bit naughty and we're not too sure what we need to do about it, so we'll call you in to have a chat. So usually, everything will be happy and friendly and smiley and like the Lego movie, and then the other side will be a little bit firmer, shall we say. Is that a nice way of putting it? Or is
maybe.
Supportive in a different mechanism than I would usually be. So if you receive emails from elections at Cardiff, everything's going great. If you receive it directly from wilford@cardiff.ac.uk, your days are numbered. So. On to Steve Wilford.
Not quite that bad, but Steve's right. I'm probably not going to see as much of you as, or you won't hear as much from me as you do from Steve and the team. But please do keep an eye out, and if we have complaints or grumbles or issues that arise, it's probably going to fall to me to engage with you. But hopefully, I'm not that bad anyway.
I wouldn't against my boss, which is a great dynamic.
So, who runs the union? And this is a question that a lot of people externally ask us. It's a question that incoming officers will ask us, both campaign officers and special officers. And there's not a simple answer to it, but we thought this is the right place to first have some of this discussion with all of you to make sure you know what you're getting yourselves in for and you know what to expect from the role. So this is particularly focused at special officers, but there's a relevance to campaign officers as well. So student officers, so all 17 student officers are the public face of the union. So when things are going well, when the media wants to talk to representatives of students, when the First Minister wants to talk to representatives of students, it is student officers that we push to the forefront to be genuine representatives of the organisation and representatives of the student population. That said, there is also, the Students' Union is a business. We are a company and a charity that do stuff. We run volunteering projects. We support students involved in sports clubs. We run a nightclub and a bar. There's lots of stuff we do, and it is employed staff, what we call career staff, professional staff, that are recruited into those roles to facilitate, manage, and deliver that activity. So we take our political leadership from students, and particularly through the president role, and we take our operational management leadership through the chief executive, who's appointed by the Board of Trustees. The Board of Trustees is a group of individuals in which all the sabbatical officers are members. There are also a number of student members, so average students who are appointed to that board, and a number of external trustees. These are sometimes nominated by the university, sometimes members of the local community, business community, legal, people who work in law, people who work in HR, people who work in online businesses, all different things. Those trustees are legally responsible for ensuring that the Students' Union does the things it needs to do. So on the very base level, that's making sure we are compliant with legislation, that we're compliant with the rules set out by the Charity Commission, who regulate us, so that the things we do are lawful and are within the realms of what the Students' Union exists to do. So as trustees, if those of you who are standing for special officers, if you become a trustee, you have a personal legal duty that you cannot step away from. You have a personal legal duty to act in the best interests of the Students' Union at all times in everything you do. Alongside that then, or kind of in a different decision-making sphere, we have the sort of political decision-making. So where students tell us things are important, and that might be through the Speak Week cards you're filling in, through a referendum we hold, through what students tell us, a motion at AGM. You as students can tell the organisation what is important to you, what are the values you hold dear, what are the principles and the things that you want us to do. And that sets political policy that governs how we do things and what kind of direction we're heading for. But overall, the trustee board has absolute responsibility. They provide political decision-making opportunities for students to make decisions, and they give authority to management team to make decisions as well. But when it comes to it, the buck stops with the trustees. So when you're in that role, it is a significantly important job, and there are sometimes tough decisions to make. As Steve said earlier, there's lots of fun stuff to do as a sabbatical officer and as a campaign officer, but when it comes to being a trustee, it is a personal legal duty that you cannot not undertake seriously. You'll be in a lot of trouble with the Chair's Commission if you did. Okay, hand back to Steve.
So, just a quick run through of everything we're going to be talking about tonight. So, timeline, publicity, the election principles or rules, the returning officer team, breaching the principles, and voting. So, that's what we're going to try and cover in a very short space of time for all of you. So, firstly, I want to talk about returning officers. So, they are people who are responsible for the elections process. So, first off, we have Restart, who's external and independent. He's not related to this organisation at all, so he has complete kind of independence from everything that we're doing. Reese works at another student union, so has seen elections, understands the processes, everything like that. So if we have a particular problem with candidates or rules or anything like that, we contact Reese. Reese can then inform us of what we should be doing. So we have Bad Steve, Deputy Returning Officer, so dealing with complaints, all that stuff, and myself as another Deputy Returning Officer for the administration and the running of the kind of elections. So as I say, Reese helps us to understand our rules. If there are things that have come up that we're not kind of too sure on, we want to seek his guidance on and have kind of a final ruling from. So Reese is the final arbiter. So he has final say on anything that happens within our elections in terms of rules. So staying in touch, this is my phone number. I don't usually give it out when I first meet people, but hey ho, we're going to be friends over the next 4 weeks. So make sure to note down that phone number, as if you receive a phone call from that number, it's probably me checking in. Hi, you missed a particular event. Is everything okay? I will be that needy. I want to make sure that everyone is okay and that everyone is engaging properly with the process. All of our emails will come from elections@cardiff.ac.uk. Also, that works the other way. If you want to call me and you're not too sure on something, you want to seek clarification, please feel free to give me a call. Emails-wise, if we make a ruling, so for example, you cannot do a certain activity, if within 24 hours of us sending that email, you're still doing it, you'll then receive a phone call from us saying, oi, why are you not listening to our email? Or, hi, you're not listening to our email, how are you doing? Depending on how I'm feeling that day. So yeah, 24 hours is kind of your maximum window. This directly relates to things like, for example, you know the crossroads just down the road? A few years ago, a candidate was playing drums really loudly, absolutely fine, until there was a postgrad exam in the room right next door to it. We will call you to tell you about stuff like that. That's another example of why we have no drumming on the crossroads. Or loud noise, not just drumming. So yeah, make sure you are keeping a look at your emails, okay? Refresh them, keep looking at them throughout the days, particularly during the election period, during the campaign period, to make sure that you don't inadvertently break any rules. And also, I will try and add some jokes in there. Why not? So this is the timeline. So go to your candidate information pack. This will be on page 7. So this is before your blue post-it, just in this info pack. So we're just going to have a quick whiz through everything that's happening. So today, there is a candidates meeting, which you're in right now. Congratulations. Tomorrow, this is not included in here, but it is included within a separate sheet of paper. Tomorrow, there are the university roundtables. Okay?
I don't think I have those separate pieces of paper for that.
Okay, we will find them for you at the end. Just make sure you come grab them. So tomorrow from 2 p.m, there'll be a roundtable for education, postgraduate, and Heath. you'll be joined by the business manager for one of the pro-vice chancellors, the academic registrar, loads of people within the university that make high-level decisions, but a way for you to gauge what you can put on your manifesto, ask them questions about what they're doing, what things that are kind of going on across the university, and different things like that. The roundtable following that are other people within the university that work on wider student experience. So if your role is not captured within those kind of 3, it's the next hour directly after that. So included within that are people like the head of sport. So if you're running for AU president or vice president of sports, great person for you to connect with and understand a little bit more about what activity they're undertaking. So as I say, that's included within a separate sheet, but I will also email it to you later on this evening. We have a speed dating event on Thursday. This is student union speed dating. So there might, yes, question back. They'll be in the boardroom, but as I say, there'll be a follow-up email after this session just to make sure that you can all kind of get there. So it'll be in the boardroom on the 3rd floor. So, speed dating is on Thursday. This is your opportunity to meet the staff that work at Cardiff University Students' Union. There are over 100 of us working on about 17 different departments. There's lots of stuff going on for things that you, places for you to kind of learn, ask questions, engage with us in terms of, oh, I've got this idea to do this thing. They're not going to tell you yes or no, but they're going to ask you coaching questions back in terms of, have you thought about the financial implications of that? How can we help you to achieve that? How have you come up with this idea? Have you asked students about it? What have they said, and why have they said that? So it's kind of a coaching situation for you. We spread amongst 3 rooms for you to kind of get time with these individuals to ask them particular questions. Your first deadline is Monday. Okay? So that deadline is for your manifesto and also for your promotional material. So your manifesto you upload via the same place that you nominated yourself. So cardiffstudents.com/elections, you'll be able to find it kind of within there. You'll be able to find it within your profile. 200 words on why people should vote for you. Why you're the best person. Great kind of stuff. It has to be with us by midday on Monday. This is also the deadline for your publicity. So any posters, any cool things that you want printed by us that we will deliver for you free of charge, that is the deadline. It's midday on Monday. The reason we have kind of that deadline is so we can translate and print everything ready for the elections. So yeah, your deadline is midday on that Monday. You submit your publicity by elections@cardiff.ac.uk. There's no space for you to upload it through our website, but manifesto through our website. Then we have 2 different events. So we have Candidate Question Time 1 and Candidate Question Time 2. There are more details on this on the event pages on the Union website, and I'll also run through which positions are on which days. But as you can imagine, it's difficult to fit like 17 different things in that box. So candidate question time is where students ask you questions. You are running for their vote. They get to ask you what you think about different things, what your policies are, how are you going to engage with them. There'll be preset questions that we send out to you, and I will kind of walk through this in a little bit more detail in a second, but you'll have plenty of time to formulate your answers in terms of the pre-written questions. But obviously, on the night, someone could come with a question that is completely out of left field that you need to be ready for in terms of answering. So yeah, candidate question time's there. Then there's a little bit of a break, and you will collect your publicity on Monday, 25th February from about 8:45 a.m. in the room right next door to this. So all your posters, all your flyers, all of your t-shirts, as I said, the t-shirt order form is included in this, and your candidate information, all of that will be ready for you to collect 8:45 a.m. on that Monday. We'll open up the room, you'll come in, there'll be loads of you, I'll be giving out posters here, there and everywhere. We'll then take you downstairs for kind of a countdown for voting open, and then we'll be off from that 9 a.m. on that Monday 25th. The 5 days of 5 consecutive days of voting, which will be fun. We will then ask you to all gather on the Friday around about 10 to 5. We'll do a countdown again. We will celebrate with you. We will probably tell you smell a little bit because it's going to be a long 5 days of hardcore campaigning and activity. And we'll get you to sign your forms. So the finance forms that we spoke about, the candidate declaration in terms of you saying, yes, I'm happy for the elections to be counted. And then myself and Steve will be here until about midnight, making sure that the results are ready to go, ready for the next morning, which will be in a class. So yeah, there'll be a wonderful reception where we will kind of congratulate you on the hard work that you've done over the month, and we will announce the results. So, this is your breakdown of the 2 events I spoke about, that candidate question time. So if you are running for Vice President Societies and Volunteering, Vice President Welfare and Campaigns, Keith Park, Education, Black Minority and Ethnic Officer, Ethical and Environmental Officer, Students with Disabilities, Mental Health, or Welsh Language, you are on the Tuesday, okay? Take photos of that. We will still send this across to you and send you invitations to them, but that is the kind of breakdown of the 2 days. The Thursday, Vice President Postgraduate, AU Press, Mature Students Officer, Women's Officer, International, LGBT+, Open, and LGBT+ Women. Those are your 2 different days. Yes?
They're different dates.
Wonderful. I have not updated the presentation. Thank you for calling my attention to that. So that should be 19th and 21st. Apologies, that's not updated from last year. 19th and 21st, which is correct within your handbook. So, how will candidate question time work? You will have 20 seconds to introduce yourself, talk about your policies, talk about the things you want to do. 2 pre-prepared questions from the question pack. You'll have 5. You get to choose which questions you respond to. In previous years, we have had the same question asked to like 20 people, and that gets so boring so quickly for everyone in the room. So instead, we've kind of switched it up. So you take control of what your campaign is, what questions you're responding to. If you want to take the other 3 questions and put them on your social media about how you would have responded to them, great, wonderful. Use tactics to engage students in these kinds of things. You'll also have 2 questions directly from the audience. Those questions will be sent to myself and Steve. We will make sure that they fit for every single candidate. We'll then ask them. You get to respond in terms of 30 seconds. Order will be determined painfully by a random number generator that I have to keep doing every single time that we go through a different question, just to make it as fair as possible, so no one has an advantage on anyone else. So, as I say, there'll be a full briefing available to you and sent out, but all of you have a question.
Are we going to know the running order for each question ahead of time?
It depends on how much work I can do in the next 2 days. So maybe. Publicity-wise, so all manifestos are printed within Guy Reeve, which is the Student Union newspaper. We print a hell of a lot more copies than we usually do. We include the photos that have been taken, as I said, from the wonderful Taz earlier today. They'll be right next to your manifesto. On manifestos, I just want to take a moment to talk about formatting. So you can put as many spaces as you want in your manifesto when you're typing it in. However, our designers may shrink it back up to what it needs to be. Okay? So the content is more important than you putting bold or putting bullet points in or whatever. All of that will be stripped out. Because when we copy and paste it into our translation system, it completely removes it anyway. And if we then try and put it back in, we would run the risk of actually getting it wrong for you. So no bold, no bullet points, nothing like that. It will just be kind of as simple as we can make it for students to engage with. We also cannot say what size it will be. It's up to our designers. So everyone will have the right kind of, everyone will have equal space, but in terms of how your line spacing works, in terms of if you put like 2 lines with nothing on, that may completely go. Okay, so I'm just telling you now, don't think that you can just go for like, my name is space, 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 vote for me. Like that's not going to work. Okay? If you have any questions about that, feel free to email elections@Cardiff. Printing allowance. So we print everything for you. Okay? So the flyers and posters, you send us one design that will be both your flyer and your poster. You will get 30 A3 sheets and you'll get about 600 A5 flyers. We can walk through more information on that in the candidate development day on Saturday. Okay? So campaign allowance is £30. So everyone has £30 to spend on this election, and you will get that back once you return your finance form with all your receipts. So yeah, that's kind of how our publicity runs. If you decide that you want to do more posters, more banners, more flyers, more whatever, then that needs to come out of your £30. We will also give you a kind of a rough sum in terms of if you're printing it at home, how much that will cost you for both black and white and I'm going to talk a little bit about campaigning and what we mean by that. When we say campaigning, what we mean is talking to students and engaging them and having great conversations. We don't mean putting a placard in front of them and being like, "Rah!" Okay? That's like campaigning, like activism. We want you to think about those two very differently. You have activism and you have campaigning. We're talking about kind of a marketing campaign of you and how great you are. That's not really going to work if you're kind of hitting someone with a placard. So yeah, think about your policies and who you are. That's how you're going to be marketing yourself. You're not yelling at people. Manifesto, so we already have a manifesto guide on the website where it kind of talks you through how you can space things out, what it means. So yeah, deadline is Monday for that. As I've said, Formatting will most likely be removed entirely, just because we cannot guarantee that all the bolds and all the bullet points are exactly the same. And we do reserve the right to amend the spacing of your manifesto in order to secure fairness. So there's a guide available on the website, and I will send around this evening as well. So, candidate match. Everyone heard of BuzzFeed? Yeah? Some people are like, yes, BuzzFeed. We love you, BuzzFeed. Please don't sue us. Really concerned this is going on the internet and BuzzFeed's going to sue me. So yeah, BuzzFeed obviously works in a way where you respond to the questions. It will then tell you what kind of cat you are or whatever article you're looking at. We have the same thing for candidates. So we have, I think it's about 12 questions, 12, 15 questions that we will ask to you. You complete it, students then complete the same quiz, and it tells them, as a percentage, how much they agree with your views. So it's very interesting, because manifestos are 200 words, whereas this allows people to see how they link in with you ideologically, how they are familiar with you. So there will be challenging questions about things from the Welsh Assembly to how the university should run, and everything in between. But as I say, it's a way for students to kind of get more of an understanding of who you are. It would be great if we could send you out to all 30,000 students, but that's just not possible. So this is one of the ways for them to get to know you and how they kind of assimilate to you. So it takes about 10 minutes, depending on how quickly you do a BuzzFeed quiz. We'll be sent out at some point next week. So this is where I pass you over to Bad Steve, and also I get to sit down, which I love. So Steve, election principle, please.
Okay guys, first of all, there's a pile of an extra sheet that I think is supposed to be at the back of your packs. I'm not sure which packs it's in and which it isn't, so Ollie's just going to drop some and ask them to pass them around. So it's the round table information that Steve was talking about, and also some additional information around one of the principles and one of the rules.
It's entitled Tuesday, 5th of February, notice to all candidates.
Okay, so election rules. We put some rules in place to try and make sure that the election process is as fair as it can be, and that you guys know what is expected of you, what you can do and what you can't do. And by you all knowing what's expected of you, hopefully then we can navigate through the election process without falling out and people falling out at each other and complaints taking place. We have 5 core rules. But I'm going to talk to them in a little bit of depth, each of them, just to make sure you understand what they say and what they mean to say. And perhaps the principle we'd approach with this is, if you think you've found a loophole, you're probably breaking a rule. What we don't want to do is we're not writing things in a particular way so that if you do things in a slightly different way, you can get around that rule and still do what you want to do. Please take the rules and the principles as being the principle, the spirit of what we're trying to say, rather than the absolute letter. We are surprised each year, I guess, and pleasantly surprised by the ingenuity of candidates and what they want to do on an annual basis to try and further their campaign. Sometimes those things that candidates come up with cause us a problem. They upset some of our friends at the university, they upset local residents, they upset other students, and we may need to say, I'm sorry, that is a good idea, but we're not going to let you keep doing that, and we'll communicate that out to everybody else as well. So please, there's nothing that we're not telling you that we're going to try and trick you with later, but if things change during the election period, we may need to give you updates as to other things you need to do. So the first rule is, and these are fairly self-explanatory, but let me just talk through them briefly. Students must be free to cast their own vote without undue pressure or influence. So 2 things to think about. When somebody is voting themselves, whether they're voting on their phone, on a tablet, on a computer, whether that's in their residences, whether that's in the university, just leave them be and walk away. By the point they're logging in and they're getting ready to cast their vote, you've done your bit. You need to just let them do their bit without influence. Even if they say to you, now which button do I press? Well, how do I do this bit? You just need to leave them be to do it. The reason being is if that student or another student feels under pressure to vote in a particular way because you're standing on their shoulder, that is not them having a free and fair election. You know, when you vote in local elections or national elections, you go to the little cubby hole, you get your pencil on the string so you can steal it, and your bit of paper. There's nobody else trying to influence you what you're doing there. There's nobody else allowed to go into that booth with you. It's the same here. When somebody is voting, walk away and leave them. If they need guidance on how to vote or it's not working, put them in touch with the elections email address or send them to one of the ballot stations that will be around campus. Secondly, then also, one of the things that we find is common, one of the things that candidates previously have chosen to spend some of their money on, some of their campaign allowance, is around little treats to give to people. That is fine as long as those are of negligible value and they're used to initiate a conversation. So if you've got a big box of Haribo or Moabs or whatever else it is, that's a good way of starting a conversation with somebody you don't know by saying, here, have a sweet, and they feel they're compelled to listen to you for a few seconds while you start talking about the campaign. It's a good conversation starter. It mustn't be dependent on whether they agree that they're going to vote for you or not, and it must be of negligible value. If you're saying to people, if you vote for me, I'll buy you a pint in the TAF, that is bribery. That is a way of encouraging people to vote by using a financial benefit or something that's a tangible benefit to them. So feel free to give people things, but they need to be of next to no value. They can't be tangible things that would change somebody's behaviour, I guess. Does that make sense, that first principle? Is there any questions or thoughts people have got in the room there? Does it make sense? No? Okay. Second one then, please obey the law and the union and university rules. And the simple test we would say is if a person of authority, be it a police officer, be it a member of university security or a member of academic staff or somebody from the union, would see you doing something and you think you'd get in trouble, please don't do it. Elections doesn't give you the ability to behave in a manner that is unacceptable at other times. The classic example of this we would give you is it's not uncommon for candidates to put banners around the building. The front steps is a great place to put banners where people can see them as they come up the steps. You can see them from down Park Place as well. On a fairly regular basis, we have candidates that climb over the handrails to get their banner in a better position. That is not okay. The reason that the barriers are there is to stop people falling off the building. We don't want any of you falling off the building. You will either A, get in trouble from us, and there'll be disciplinary sanctions that come out of it, or B, you'll be considered as an elections complaint, and your position in the elections is put at risk, or you're put at risk of sanctions as a result. So please don't do things that you think, if somebody sees me doing this and they'll get in trouble. We've had everything from racing shopping trolleys up and down Common Road, to people dangling out of bits of building they shouldn't be in, to people climbing up the University Hall Tower and flying a flag from the top of the antenna on the top, all sorts of different things. Any of that stuff is only going to end up in getting in trouble.
Are candidates liable for the actions of people campaigning on their behalf?
Yes. So those that are campaigning for you is not a defence for you as a candidate to say, that wasn't me, that was somebody over there who just happened to be supporting my campaign. You need to make sure you're communicating all of this stuff to the people who are on your campaign teams, the people who are going to be campaigning for you, to make sure they're not stepping over the line on your vote. Okay, does that make sense? Okay. Third one, treat each other as you wish to be treated yourself. We, as Steve said, will provide you with A3 posters and flyers and other bits of campaign material, t-shirts for example. You'll be perhaps putting some of your own stuff out in the public domain as well. It might be very tempting as you're walking down a university corridor and you see one of your competitors' posters on the wall there to rip it off the wall and stick it in the bin discreetly. What happens when that starts is the person whose poster's gone missing thinks, oh, I bet it was so-and-so, I'll take their posters down. And then that person thinks, I bet it was so-and-so, and they take. And before we know it, campus has been cleared of all the posters and publicity materials that are on campus, and all of you lose out as a result. Equally, it's not in that principle of treating each other with respect, being fair to each other, and winning your campaign on having the best campaign by removing on other people's publicity. The same thing can be said as what Steve said earlier. Feel free to challenge each other on your policies and on your manifestos and the things you're committing to do, but don't make that a personal attack. Challenge the policy, not the person, and try and make sure you do that. And as a recipient of that, be prepared to be challenged on your ideas. People may disagree with you, and may disagree with you quite robustly that what you're suggesting is the wrong thing. Don't take that as a personal attack, but if it becomes targeted at any person, then come and talk to us and we'll give you some guidance on what we can do. The last two then start getting a little bit more complicated, and we'll talk through it. There's another slide actually for each of them. So first of all, items that you produce or primarily use for your campaign need to be accounted for within your budget, which, as we said, is £30. This is a bit difficult to read on there, but it's also in this CUSU regulations pack that you've got here.
If you don't have that, just raise your hands and I'll bring one round for you.
So you cannot spend more than £30 of your money or anybody else's money on your campaign. Finances shouldn't be a barrier to you running elections and being successful in the elections. So it's not about spending as much as you can and plastering campus with flyers. It's about those connections you make with individuals. So you cannot exceed that amount. Please think about postage costs if you're getting stuff sent. Please think about VAT if you're buying things online, make sure that's accounted for. And I'll talk through what does need to be accounted for, what doesn't need to be accounted for. As Steve said, you do need to produce receipts. If we haven't got receipts, we can't evidence that's how much you've spent. It becomes very challenging for us to keep people in the election. If there's a lot of fancy goods over here they've used for their campaign, and we've got no evidence that that costs less than £30. So please make sure you've got those receipts and keep as evidence. My advice to you is take a photograph of your phone if it's a paper receipt as soon as you can get it. So if you're running around during the election period and you're busy and you put something down, you've got what it is, make sure you've got images on your phone of those things that can be useful. When we talk about expenditure that's carried out or consumed in your election, what we mean is if there are things that you only have because of your election, you being a candidate in the elections, they need to be accounted for in that budget. We fully expect that lots of people will have a bike or a car or a musical instrument or a pet or something else they may want to use as part of their campaign. You don't have those things because of your election. You have those things anyway. What we don't certainly expect you to have is a lot of business cards that say vote Steve for student vote. So they need to be accounted for. And what that table shows, and you'll see it better in your packs, is things that need to be accounted for are things that you specifically produce for your campaign. So that might be professionally printed banners or posters or things like that from the print shop downstairs or from elsewhere. Flyers, posters, business cards, printed t-shirts, things like that. Any sweets or anything else you're giving out to candidates as that conversation starter. Anything that somebody else is giving you in kind. So if you've got a friend who says, oh, well, I've got a load of sweets here, you can have those. They need to be accounted for their normal retail value. And hand stamps, although that doesn't seem to have happened the last few years, we have had candidates who produced like a rubber stamp with their campaign slogan on or their campaign message that they then used to stamp on the back of people's hands, things like that. Again, it's a memory to remember who you've spoken to and what position they're running for. You don't own that thing because you own that thing, you own that thing because you're a candidate in the election. So on the other side, we fully expect you've all got blue tack, string, scissors, paint, an old bed sheet that you can turn into a banner, an old shower curtain, things like that. Things that are repurposed or things that are genuine consumables, you don't need to account for in that amount. The only slight anomaly that perhaps sits across those is we do expect and we do need you to account for printing, so paper and ink from your printers. They need to be accounted for at a reasonable rate, and what we do is take the print centre's print rate downstairs and apply that to what we're producing. Does that make sense to people?
If we have old t-shirts that we paid for our campaign, do we need to account for the box that costs those? So if we have paid and we have a t-shirt, but we apply the pay to the t-shirt, but that's accountable.
No, so anything you're producing yourself is, we expect you've got paint and we expect you've got t-shirts. What we would expect to be accounted for is if you've got a t-shirt that's screen printed or embroidered that's got your details on, that's been produced in a professional manner. If you've got a bunch of old white t-shirts or yellow t-shirts from Primark or anything else, or a premium fancy dress event, and you want to scribble on those, that's fine. There's no cost associated with those.
Steve, do you want to talk about baked goods in terms of baking? How does one factor that in?
Yes, so some candidates have baked some fairly questionable things in previous years, I would say. Instead of producing sweets, some people have made fairy cakes and flapjacks and all sorts of things. Please make sure you account for the cost of the ingredients for that. We're not going to bill you for 3 kilowatts of gas usage and things like that in the oven. But please make sure that you're capturing that, the ingredients, the stock you're putting into that as being its normal retail value. Yeah.
And also make sure it's edible.
Yes, very question product. One particular moment where somebody came around with a bowl of what was supposed to be flapjack was actually just you scooped out a handful of oats. That was quite pleasant. Anyway, so next one is the campaign will start on the agreed date. And particularly those that have been involved in elections previously, there's a bit of a change of tack here that we hope is positively received and is useful for you. So voting week and campaigning week, or what we call campaign week and voting week, still takes place from the point that the ballot stations open at 9 o'clock on the 25th of February and close at 5 o'clock on the 1st of March. So that those 5 days. What we're changing from previous years is we want you to talk about elections, and maybe this was sort of where we shot ourselves in the foot in previous years. What we normally say is you can't talk about elections. We know you're all candidates, and we know that your friends will know you're candidates, and we'll release a notice of poll that's got your name on saying you're a candidate, but you're not allowed to talk about elections. So that has gone. We're not enforcing that anymore. So from tomorrow, when we release the notice of poll that you'll see go live on our website or on social media through our formal communication channels, once that has been released, you're at liberty to talk to other students about you being a candidate, about why you're the right candidate, try to seek their information from them to say, what do I need to put in my manifesto to meet your needs? What are your values? What are the important things to you? What are the big issues on campus that I need to solve? So make it a two-way conversation with people. You can do that face-to-face and you can do that on social media. Our warning, I guess, and our guidance is that it'd be very easy then to spend the next 2 weeks before the campaigning week starts throwing your election messages, your information about you as a candidate at everybody you can find on social media. If that's what happens, our fear is, or perhaps the thing for you to think about is, have we turned everybody off the election before it even starts? So use it as an opportunity to talk to people, but don't invest your time from 8 o'clock in the morning till 8 o'clock at night spamming everybody you can and just taking a sort of shotgun approach of trying to just reach as many people as possible during that period. The people that we see that win elections are the people who have meaningful conversations with potential voters and engage with them in a two-way conversation. You don't win an election by filling up everybody's, it's not called war anymore, you get criticised for that in the timeline, on Facebook with messages saying, vote for me because I'm the best candidate.
I've got a question. Is it alright, like, when, let's say, candidates are preparing themselves for the campaign week, but they're preparing their stuff, and is it alright for them to share it on the social media? Or do you think that it should not be shared? It's only about the conversation, what they should be putting about the manifesto?
Let me just finish this bit, and if I haven't answered that question, ask me again.
Sure.
But I think I can.
Awesome.
What you can't do from tomorrow until election week is put anything into the public domain, any physical items that are campaign materials. So flyers, posters, banners, things that are costing you money. So we don't want anybody on campus giving out those sweets or giving out baked goods or clothes pegs, tea bags, all of the other things we've had given out before. Anything that's costing you money as part of your campaign cannot be used until 9 o'clock on the morning of the 25th of February. So the period between tomorrow and the start of the campaign week is about talking. It's about you saying, hey, elections are coming. Do you even know what elections are? This is the role I'm standing for. This is why I think I'm the right candidate. But it's not about being in fancy dress, out the crossroads, giving out things, handing out posters, handing out flyers.
So in the period from tomorrow until the 25th, are you allowed to ask people to vote for you?
You can say, I hope you vote for me when voting opens, but voting isn't open. So the call to action is delayed. And one of the bits of feedback we've had from other institutions, and equally we've done this in the past here, we've had campaigning open before elections take place. The effort it takes to get somebody who doesn't know you to reach a point where they go, yes, I'll log on to a website and vote for you is quite a lot of work to get that person from not knowing who you are and not knowing elections taking place to that point. If they then say, okay, well, how do I vote? And you say, well, you can't vote for 2 weeks. You put too much time and effort into that bit of the relationship. You can follow that up at a later point. So you can absolutely be saying, I'm standing for this position, I think I'm the best candidate. When voting opens, will you vote for me? So you can say that bit. Just temper how you're doing that, because in 2 weeks' time, that person's probably been spoken to by 20 other candidates. How does your name stand out in that point? How do you make yourself identifiable? Okay.
Would lecture shout-outs count as one of the ways that we can reach out then, or would that be banned?
We certainly wouldn't encourage you to do any lecture shout-outs in that period, because that's not having a conversation. That's projecting your view in that way. It's very difficult, I guess, for us to define what is a lecture shout-out, what isn't, because if you're in a small school and there's 10 of you in the room and you have to say to your friend, I'm standing this election coming up in a couple of weeks' time, please vote for me, and the rest of the room here, well then, is that lecture shout-out or not? Academic staff will not permit you to do lecture shout-outs in the way that we perhaps traditionally know them until that week of the 25th, and even then, it's at their permission. So we strongly encourage you not to be doing that. But talking to people in your academic sessions is a reasonable thing to do. Okay? Yeah, question back.
Do we have any specific designated areas where we are allowed to put or not put the actual banners with the campaign, I don't know, name or slogan?
Yeah, I think I can cover that in a minute. So I'll again, if I don't answer the question, then do give me a shout.
If we're in the office and someone asks, are you running? Are we allowed to say that, or should we remain impartial?
Again, I think I'm about to answer that question. So perhaps let me just get the end of this section, and if I haven't answered, I think I remember all the questions anyway. If I haven't answered those questions, then stick your hand back up. So when it comes to 25th, you can then spend that money. You can put your posts up. So we'll give you the posters and T-shirts that are provided by us. You can hang banners made of bed sheets out of windows and cottes and on the front steps of the building. In terms of where you can put stuff, you need to have permission to put stuff where you put it, I guess. For your information, posters within this building, we will put up for you. So for all the posters we issue to you, we will keep a selection back of every candidate and make sure that through the stairwells and in the corridors and things like that, there'll be an equal number of everybody's posters dotted around this building. So we'd ask you not to put up additional posters in this building, but you can put banners on the outside of the building where you can access it from publicly accessible areas. So from the front steps, that's fine. What we can't do is have somebody sneaking onto the roof and dangling things off you. If you can put your banner up by standing in a safe and publicly accessible place in this building, you can put your banner up there. We may, if it causes obstruction, we may say, sorry, we have to take that down today, you can put it back up again tomorrow. We may say, actually, no, that's going to be a bit of a hazard, or we may take it down. But at that point, we give it back to you and say, just need to find somewhere else to put it. Okay? There's no absolute list of everywhere on campus where you can and can't put things. Use your common sense, get permission, and if somebody asks you to move something, then please do as they request. When it comes to those of you who are current sabbatical officers, current campaign officers, or members of staff working for the Student Union, there's an additional layer of responsibility in regards to what you can and can't do. So what we say is, whilst you are identifiable as a representative of the organisation, so that's whilst you are working for the organisation, or whilst a student would perceive you to be working as a representative of the organisation. So that might be in your uniform or your lanyard on, or in another way that identifies you as a staff member or as an official representative of the union. You can't campaign. We can't employ you to undertake a role, and you'll be spending that time campaigning for your candidacy. You are also not able to use any social media accounts that belong to the union or union mailboxes, union email addresses that you have access to through that role that you hold with the union. And when it comes to campaign week, for those individuals, we would ask that you don't take up any shifts, you don't take up any work if you're a member of staff during that period of time, and your managers across the union have been told the same thing, to not offer you shifts. If that causes you financial hardship, come talk to us. We're not so choose to say you can't earn the money you need to earn to pay the bills that week. but we certainly very, very strongly encourage you not to go into the work, because when you are working, you cannot campaign, you cannot undertake campaigning activity. Did that answer your question, Amir?
I know we can't campaign, but if someone asks us specifically, are you running, should we remain impartial?
Yeah, I think you can confirm you're running, but it needs to be a single sentence to say, yes, I'm running the election. It's not, you can't not answer the question, you can't just pretend that the question's not been asked, but at the same point you can't campaign during that period, so it needs to close down the conversation.
In regard to the whole working and the shift stuff, does that include bar staff and also job shop?
So it would include people working for the union as an employee of the union. If you're taking a work through job shop and working for the university or working for a venue in town, you continue to do that, that's no problem at all. When you're working within the university, you wouldn't be able to campaign as well then, but we wouldn't stop you taking up shifts at that.
I was going to say, with a similar issue, that if you're a current campaign officer and so you're running a campaign which is like completely separate from this, for example, so I'm running one next week that's something else, the basic point is just during that campaign, I just can't talk about the other position I'm running for. Yeah.
Can we set up like an out of office thing on our emails? Because if I'm coming up to a campaign during election week, I don't be using my phone. Is it like an out of office?
Yes, what we'll perhaps do for anybody who needs that is we might write a template one that you just use so that they're consistent across everybody rather than wonder how much I can get away with in terms of say out of office.
I don't want to like anyone from Park Place or anything thinking I'm in the room.
Yeah, that's fine. That's perfectly reasonable, and we'll help you produce that.
If it's one of our main accounts, we can also have it auto-forwarded to another account that can handle it as well, so the student isn't kind of waiting. So
yeah,
we can do that for you.
Brilliant.
I've got a question. Now I'm an employee of the union, but I'm still having a student membership. I can vote. Can I, like for example, say that I'm going to vote for this person, and does that count campaigning?
Sabbatical officers that are not rerunning, I have a meeting in the diary with you tomorrow morning to talk through some nuances around this. But for you guys, does that make sense? And are there lingering questions there around how that process works? As in yes, there are questions, or yes, yes. Okay, great. So this is on the additional sheet. So what I've talked through is on the additional sheet that I think Holly has passed around. If you didn't have an original copy of, we will circulate it electronically as well to make sure you've got copies of it. Just check my notes to see what else I was supposed to say. Okay. So breaking the rules. That's the slide that you put in, but I didn't look at it. So, rules are not allowed to be broken when it comes to elections. Please don't break them, because all it does is make your life harder and our life harder, and it is rare that something good comes out of trying to gain an unfair advantage. So please don't do it, I guess. It is much easier for you and for us, if you've got an idea of something you want to do, to come and talk to us about it in advance and seek our view and our guidance on how to do something before you go and do it, than it is to go and do it and then try and unpick what happens afterwards, and I'll explain what happens afterwards further down the line. So please talk to us, email elections, the elections inbox, and pose whatever questions you want to. Come and find them on the third floor of the building here. They'll be able to help. Steve may call me Bad Steve, but if I'm around the office as well, do feel free to come and ask me questions, and I'll give you whatever guidance and assistance I can. As much clarity as I can as to what we'd accept in terms of what's reasonable. In terms of complaints, you can complain about us, me, Steve, others, that we may be conducting ourselves inappropriately or giving a particular individual a disadvantage through something we do. Feel free to send that through to us. We will pass that on to our returning officer, who will make a judgment call on whether we've been following our own rules. So the returning officer that Steve mentioned earlier is not just there to make sure you're obeying the rules, he's there to make sure we're following our own rules as well. And he can remove me from the election in the same way as he can remove you guys from the election. If you need to make a complaint, if you see something that is amiss or something that is wrong, please put it in writing to us. please put it in writing to the elections inbox. What might feel useful is when you pop in the office and say, I don't want to complain, I just want to let you know about X, Y, and Z. That is not useful for us. We can't do anything with that. Something is either a complaint or it's not. Okay? Put it in writing to us. Tell us what you're complaining about, why you think it's a breach of the rules, or why you think something is wrong there. What evidence you've got to back that up, whether that's photographs of somebody doing something inappropriate, bits of video, witness testimonies from somebody who's seen something happen, and what you're asking us to do about things. Sometimes a candidate may upset another candidate, and what they're actually looking for is that first candidate to acknowledge they might have done something that's upset them and perhaps get an apology. So the outcome of a complaint is not necessarily an action. It might just be going, do you know what, yeah, I was a bit of a prat then, apologies for putting you in that position, that wasn't right, I'm sorry, apologies accepted, and we'll move forward. That is a good resolution to a complaint, and sometimes that's just what candidates want. So please be prepared to, as we said earlier, treat each other kindly, treat each other with respect, and be mindful that you're all in this stressful position. Sometimes you might make a decision or say something in the heat of the moment which was not intended in the way it was received, so please be humble enough to give each other a bit of slack if you need to. What we will then do if we get a complaint, particularly between candidates, is there are 3 questions we ask ourselves. They are, has a rule been broken, first of all? So sometimes a candidate may do something that nobody's thought of before and go, well, that must be against the rules because it doesn't say anywhere how we do that. Not necessarily. You're all clever individuals who will come up with ingenious ideas of how to make yourself appeal to the student population. Just because it hasn't been done before, or we've not suggested it, or it's not in the kind of the sphere of student elections, doesn't mean it's a rule breach. So we'll first all make that judgment call. Secondly, what we'll do then is say, has that rule breach given any advantage? So you might have, for example, if your banner is put up outside your place of residences and it went up 30 seconds before 9 o'clock on the Monday the 25th, what's the impact that's actually had? Has that given you a competitive advantage? No, it hasn't. We would probably say that was a foolish thing to do, and you're perhaps putting yourself in a position where other candidates are not going to be particularly supportive of you if you're bending or breaking those rules. But there's no competitive advantage by someone going by 30 seconds earlier. If it's gone up the day before, or 4 hours earlier, that might be a different matter. But things that are minor breaches where there is no advantage gained, we may dismiss and say, yes, it was a rule break, we'll slap it on the wrist, but there's no other further action. The third question then we will ask is, what can we do to re-level the playing field? So elections need to be free and fair and open, and you all have an equal opportunity, an equal chance to undertake the elections. If you've done something that has breached a rule and given you an unfair advantage, we will try and figure out a way that we can nullify that advantage that's been gained. What we definitely don't do is we don't penalise people votes. That's not something we entertain. But we may say, okay, if your banner went up an hour early, we're going to take that banner off you now for another hour during campaigning. So it was up an hour early, it's now disappearing for another hour, plus you've got the time sat in the office with me or Steve in terms of dealing through and explaining what's happened, which is time you could be out spending campaigning. So what we'll always try and do is rebalance that playing field and make sure any advantage you've gained is nullified. Where we can't do that, we only have one other solution in terms of maintaining the fairness of the election, and that is to remove candidates from the election. We don't like doing it. We don't do it loads, but probably 50, I know I've been involved in 10 elections here now. In 5 of those years, we've removed somebody from the election, not because they were trying to cheat necessarily, but because they'd made a decision that they hadn't engaged with us about beforehand. That decision gave them an unfair advantage, and we were not able to do anything practically that would enable that advantage to be nullified. Okay, we can and we will remove people from the elections. As I say, it's not a pleasant end for anybody in terms of your involvement, and we certainly don't want to do it. But please bear in mind that we can and will use that authority if we need to. Which covers off consequences, I think. Any questions, I guess, on rules, breaking them, not breaking them, probably my parting comment on that bit would be, please come and ask us if you've got a thought or an idea and you're just not quite sure which side of the rules it sits on. Please come and talk to us and we'll give you advice about it. Okay? Hand back to Steve.
So as I mentioned before, there was a candidate that was drumming. I was at a postgrad law exams. Those postgrad law exams happen exactly the same time every single year and happen to coincide with elections. So, no drumming outside of the crossroads, okay? My other piece of advice would be, if you're going to the Heath Park, great, probably don't put a trombone in front of A&E. Okay, like think about proper places, about where you can campaign and where you can get people kind of involved and engaged. But think about the fact that you could be going to a hospital site. So if people have got like blood all on their faces, they're probably not going to stop and be like, oh yeah, I'll vote for you. Like they're probably going to focus on getting help. Well, at least I hope. But yeah, think about these things when you're going about the campus. There'll be people who are revising, there'll be people kind of studying. If you're outside of a library with a trombone and a drum kit, probably not the best course of action. So kind of think about those things when you are doing great stuff. Engage people, yes, just maybe not outside of exams. The next one is something that causes a lot of strife for me in terms of the university. No stickers this year, okay? No stickers on hand dryers, no stickers on doors, no stickers, okay? Whether that be a sticky label, whether that be printed stuff, no stickers. Because I still get calls from the library team that are not happy with me, so no stickers this year, okay? Posters, fine, banners, fine, go to town, however as we say, it's about genuine conversations. No stickers. I sound like such a fun parent, don't I? Like, no stickers, children. But that's not what I mean to say. Just basically save yourself the heartache and myself the heartache by no stickers this year. As we've mentioned before, if you are running to be a sabbatical officer, you need to make sure you have signed this declaration and you hand it to us today. So you need to think about if you are eligible to take part. You will become a director and a trustee of the organisation, which requires certain legal challenge. The first 4 weeks of your employment, we need you for training and development purposes, okay? This is not just us saying that you can have fun in Barbados or wherever you want to go in the first 4 weeks of your term. It's because we spend a lot of money on your training. We want to make sure you get the best out of it, and so does everyone else. If you've already booked that holiday, or you're going to Glastonbury or whatever, talk to us about that, okay? We can figure out what we can do to kind of work around it, but it causes us more problems and you more problems if you are elected, because you might miss out on key things. Make sure you've understood the declaration as well. There are references to pieces of legislation. If you're not got the time to read them, let us know, but we need that in. So, compliance, as we mentioned, last year there were quite a few people who were a bit unhappy about having to sign the form at the end of the process. We're showing it to you now, okay? You're expected to sign this form at the end of the process. We're including it now so you can have questions about it, challenge us, have that kind of active discussion, okay? So if we don't get enough of these back, we will not do the election count. So you will stop everything happening. So you all need to be here at 10 past 5 on the 1st of March to make sure you've signed that off to say, yes, the election count can go ahead and I'm happy with all the complaints being dealt with, okay? So yeah, we'll probably ask for everyone to meet, as I say, run about 10 to 5 to do a final countdown, a celebration, a yay! Then we'll get you to do some paperwork. Then you can all go home and shower and sleep ready for the next day. So yeah, you all need to attend that meeting. The do Ithim Ashai Gymraeg, which is I don't speak Welsh. Sorry, I do need to learn. One of the things I want to go off on a tangent about is Ariana Grande. So, has everyone heard about Ariana Grande recently? She had a tattoo on her hand. Her recent song is 9 Rings. She had it tattooed in a language she didn't speak. It was too painful for her, so she said, oh, just stop there. And instead of saying 9 rings, it says fish barbecue. The reason I'm talking about Ariana Grande's tattoo is not just because I really love popular culture. It's because you need to think about, if you're going to try and use Google Translate, it's probably not going to work when it comes to being bilingual in what you're doing when it comes to campaigning. So, if you want to type in vote for me number 1, you could end up with fish barbecue because of the way Google Translate just doesn't really work. So think about making some Welsh language friends, engage with Umkaka, engage with our Welsh language officer, engage with people who speak Welsh across the university and learn a few phrases as well. The election period can be quite an exciting time to actually learn a little bit of Welsh, to engage with Welsh speakers. if you walk up to someone and just going to say, oh, I'm not going to bother learning Welsh or kind of speaking Welsh, you could disengage and disenfranchise over 2,000 Welsh speakers across this university. As you've seen throughout this entire presentation, aside from one slide, it's been bilingual. We're a bilingual student union. So think about how you can incorporate the Welsh language into your promotional materials and into the things that you're doing. So I'm now going to bring up a wonderful video that we have that talks about single transferable voting, the voting system we use.
Cardiff University Students' Union is led by students. These leaders are elected each year, and all Cardiff University students are eligible to vote. Voting is easy. Head to cardiffstudents.com/vote and log in. Choose the election you want to vote in, select the role and rate your candidates using numbers. Number 1 would be the candidate that you think deserves the role the most. Number 2 would be your second choice. You can number as many or as few candidates as you want. Once you're done, just log out. We add up all of the first preferences, and if it ends up that a candidate has 50% of the votes, they are the winner. If there isn't a clear winner, the candidate with the least number of votes is removed. If your first choice candidate is removed, your second preference votes are included and added to the remaining candidates. This happens until a winner is declared. If you don't feel like any of the candidates are right for the job, you can choose RON. RON stands for Reopen Nominations. If this option won the vote, we would start the election process over again. You can also vote at one of our ballot stations run by friendly students across campus. If you've got any questions, get in touch with us at elections@cardiff.ac.uk.
So that's a video we produced about 2 years ago just to kind of show people how single transferable voting works. We're also going to show you a little bit. So as the video mentioned, it's basically based on preferences. So what this means is you can run about campus and say, vote for me number 1. There are 77 of you. If you all get number 1, no one's getting in. So it goes through in random processes. So students will be asked to order all candidates from 1 being the best all the way through to however many candidates there are. As we've mentioned as well, there is RON, which is Reopen Nominations. People have lost to RON before. Okay? Be cautious of that. If you are running unopposed, you're actually not. RON is always a candidate within these elections, so you could always sneak up and vote. Students can vote by a whole kind of different collection of means. So Lucy, can you give us a wave? Lucy this year is responsible for our ballot stations. So Lucy will have a crack team of people there to smile and engage with donuts, and I think it's about 1,200 donuts I've ordered that Lucy is responsible for a whole week to engage students in our voting process, to get them to read our manifesto, and doing a lot of kind of work that we lead from there. Just another kind of thing on what we do, we send text messages, we send emails, we send loads of social media out there. We just need you to talk to students. You can have an incredible banner, we need to kind of talk. So, we're also going to show you an example of single transferable voting in action. So this was from about 3 years ago, maybe 2 years ago, where we had a whole collection of candidates here, and you can see that already there's kind of a clear winner. You think this person's going to win. Spoiler, they don't. But we're going to talk you through each round. So, this bottom bar here that's now appeared, this is non-transferable preferences. So, for example, if people have only just voted for one person and then they're kind of gone, their votes don't really kind of go anywhere, if that makes sense. Cool. So, as you can see, Ron is gone. So all of Ron's votes have been transferred. Kind of keeps going. As you can see, the non-transferable preferences keep on changing. So this person was very happy at the top until things started to take a turn, where you quickly switch from kind of being neck and neck to actually someone is beginning to win very, very quickly. And that was our Vice President Welfare and Campaigns, Holly Cook, 3 years ago. So yeah, Steve, I think, is going to provide a little bit more commentary.
Yeah, so it's worth noting, I guess. So can you go back to the first slide? So in the first round of votes, the candidates with most votes, they got just less than 600 votes. You go then to the last slide. The winner was just under 1,200 votes. So virtually half of the votes that they got that won them the election were second, third, fourth, 7th, 8th, 9th preference votes. So make sure when you're talking to people, if they say, I'm already voting for my housemate, or there's somebody in my club, or there's one of my course mates who's running on, voting for them, make sure you become their second preference, or their third preference, or their 8th preference, or their 12th preference, or whatever else it is. Every single one of those votes could be the vote that puts you in front. And the other thing that's worth noting is this bar along the bottom, you go back one maybe there. There were more people whose votes didn't count in the final round because they'd not transferred votes than the winner had. Okay? So if candidate at the top here could nobble some more of those, or candidate in here could nobble a good chunk of those, they could win in those subsequent rounds. Okay? So it's really, really important you understand the importance of this single transferable voting system, and that you try and help us educate voters to make sure they use their vote as sensibly as possible, and try and get any number written in your box online or on the paper ballots. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Cool. This is just a note about, obviously, your banners can go up 9 AM on that Monday, 25th, but those need to come down afterwards. You can't just leave them there for decades and eons. They need to be removed. And we will probably say to you at the candidate debriefing, right, have a shower, have a rest, but go and take your damn banners down. Because otherwise, the university call us up and say, why is your building looking so tatty today? And also, it doesn't give off the right vibe if it's just continually there. If you do not take them down, and I send out one of my team, I'll bill you for their hours. And I might choose the most expensive. Thank you, Jake, for that snap there. That was brilliant. So yeah, and I might take that off of your election stuff. So basically, take down your banners, be a responsible person. If there are some posters that we can recycle, let's do so. Let's put them in recycling bins. Let's not just bin them off. Think about how we can do reduce, reuse, recycle. So your next event, as I said, is tomorrow. University roundtables, one from 2 and one from 3. You can learn a lot about the university, learn a lot about the role, and a little bit more about what the university is up to. So yeah, next event is tomorrow. Next deadline is your manifesto deadline and your publicity deadline at midday on Monday. Steve, I believe, wants to say something.
2 things I forgot to say earlier, so just to, apologies, just to bring those in. In that first campaign, first election rule, we talk about students being free to cast their own votes. One of the things that we would not expect, we're not allowed you to do, is provide people with a means to vote. So we don't want you walking around campus, giving somebody an iPad, getting to log into the website, and casting their vote on your iPad. They need to be voting on their own tablets, computers, phones, things like that. The reason we don't want you doing that is it's very easy for somebody to log in, cast a vote for a particular election, and then forget to log out, and you're then walking around with somebody else's profile logged into the website, which means you could, if you wanted to, manipulate their vote. And even and it's worst case scenario, if they then remember that you're still logged in to their account on their laptop, even if you haven't done anything, the allegation and suggestion is there that you could have done. So please don't do that. And secondly, around complaints, and maybe I did cover this, but perhaps just to reinforce, complaints don't win elections. People who cheat don't win elections equally, but for all the time and effort you perhaps put into having been upset by another candidate and trying to challenge them and gather evidence of things that they may have done wrong is all time that you're not campaigning to win an election. Elections that go well, from what we see and from the feedback we get from students, is where people get along, they forgive each other for things when there's minor issues that have occurred. What tends to happen is once complaints start coming in, we might have 1 complaint the first day, 3 complaints on the second day. By day 3, we've got 46 different complaints we're trying to deal with. Because everybody, when you're on the receiving end of a complaint, you then go, oh, if they complain about me, I'm going to complain about that. And everybody begins to fall out. So please give each other respect you're due, but equally give each other a bit of leeway to say, okay, that might have upset me, but let me have a conversation with them and try and understand what they were trying to do, rather than just going straight to the union to
And it takes some time as well.
It consumes a lot. Yeah, it consumes a lot of time and a lot of mental energy as well from you guys as well. So if you can be positive, bright individuals who are out campaigning, Philippe is a good example of this, was out campaigning throughout last year and was always a positive face on campus. There's perhaps no surprise that she's sitting here as a soon-to-be outgoing president, as opposed to those individuals who were perhaps felt aggrieved by other people and whatever gets shown about. But I'll shut up.
Cool. So just Final thing to remember, sabbatical offices, if you're running for it, I need your trustee declaration and your candidate information form. If you're running for a campaign opposition, I just need your candidate information form. And also try and have fun. Like, it is a great experience. I went through it and I'm all the better for it. And I know I'm saying that now with hindsight, but have a wonderful time and good luck everyone. Thank you very much.
Hi, sorry about that. How are we with that?